Welcome to episode 67 of Broad Street Hustle. Bringing you a different look today. Trying to pull off my best Meeker impression. Got the glasses, so trying to look more intelligent. But let's jump into what we're talking about today. We are going to talk about the Phillies. They've had a pretty productive last couple games, weeks since we've been on. Give Jason a little credit for Turner, and we'll get more into that. Then we're going to talk more baseball predictions. Did what we think change. Who do we think is going to win divisions, World Series, and then we'll jump into Saratoga pick 4. But first, let's start with what everybody wants to know: the over/under on Sixers games that I and Jason will attend when the stadium moves to Chinatown. I put it at a half. Jason, you're under. I'm also under.
I would put it at negative half.
Okay, Mika, are you also?
I like me some Chinese food, so I might go more than a half a time.
You gonna wear pseudo armor?
I will also be. And Chalky, would you retain the season tickets or give them to the boys?
He's going.
I expect to be out of the season tickets well before they would move to a new stadium. So
when is the projected date if that were to happen?
I mean, that usually takes 3 years.
I think
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Minimum.
They're talking 2030 or 2031, I think.
Oh wow.
Oh, I actually
That's a
might
long
be
time
dead.
from now.
So, yeah, there's good
That's
chance.
true.
All right,
Jason are much closer to that than you are. So
Yeah.
a lot more in here. So, I mean, you saw who's on. We got Jason Sayeda. We
What's
got
up?
Chalky. And we got Christopher.
Happy to be here with the eggheads.
And we got Christopher.
good evening.
Michael Meeker, the regular crew. I'm a little sad that we don't have Jimmy D with the Fourstardave, the legend. The legend lives on. Wasn't that the Tom Durkin call? And Jimmy D is the legend of Saratoga. So I feel like this is a show made for him. A horse that won a race for 7, 8 years at Saratoga was straight, I think. Chalky
7 wasn't it?
7.
I think.
So can't see that being beat with the way horses are trained these days. But yeah, sad to see.
Might have an appearance from Jimmy D.
But yep, as a little teaser, we may have Jimmy D. And just a side note, next week we are going to talk Eagles. We've been getting a lot of complaints that we're not talking Eagles, so we're going to bring it up next week. Then we have Travers, which is all strictly horses, and then our big football preview show, fan favorite every year. That's the end of August. So let's just jump right into it. Phillies. Jason, I'll start. We won't go no hitter yet. I'll give the credit to the standing ovation. You said it on this podcast. Of course, it was, turned out it was said throughout. Although we broadcast on Thursday, so I feel like we may have had the upper hand. Did it work? I mean, the numbers say it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think it worked. I mean, you could see it in his face. Like, when he was just standing up the bat, he was kind of, like, shaking his head and all. Like, you could tell, like, he's a highly strung guy, highly wound guy, and it was – you could see it in his play before that.
So do you think it was just like, I got a big contract, I'm letting the fans down kind of deal, and that was why he's pressing?
Philadelphia. It's Philadelphia. Philadelphia's got the reputation of not being, patient. So I think it was all that. And, the guy might have broke him if they booed him that at bat or whatever. Like, who knows what had happened. But, like I said, it gave him the feeling of, hey, they have my back. They know I'm trying. And I'm just going to go up there and do what I could do.
Yeah, and it was a perfect situation because they were on a road trip, had a day off, and coming home. So it was kind of like the welcoming back. So it worked out. Chalky, any thoughts? I think you were in favor. I think everybody was in favor of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can be tough, and, I'd like to get on Stott right now for grounding and double play, but, to boo him when he's coming up. I mean, I would say in general in Philly, when we boo our own after they do something bad on the field, people don't get booed for Philly players in introductions or just stepping on the court or the ice for the most part. So the fact that they didn't go above and beyond to boo him as he was coming up to the plate without having had an at-bat at that game was a positive. And then obviously the standing ovation, we get a bad rap. Most of it is not deserved, but
yeah, but it wasn't
we had the players back.
It wasn't even about booing. I mean, they could have just did nothing, right? And he probably would have just kept doing his thing. But the fact that it was the cheering and the ovation and all that.
Sure. I mean, and I mean, if you're the number one pick, there's expectations, but okay, you might say, well, it's going to take a couple years to get good. Like when you sign a $300 million contract, it's like you're going to be expected to be good right away, and he wasn't delivering. And so that could have went bad for sure. But he takes it seriously, and it seems like he feels like he owes the fans better play, and the fact that the fans are like, all right, we'll stand behind you, but you got to start doing something, and then he's played well since then.
Now, listen, I want to throw in that the reputation is well deserved. Meeker, you could attest to, Lance Parrish, I'm sure, was not trying back in the day, when they booed him mercilessly.
Well, did they boo him at the start of every game? I mean, look, we're tough. We're tough. I get
what
that.
did they do to Lance Parrish?
Yeah, I think they were a rough one. I saw on Twitter somebody donated $14 to Turner's charity, and the charity owner said, "Oh, thank you so much. Every little bit helps." He goes, "Good, because this is the amount of errors that Trey Turner has this year." So, so it's like Philly fans can be mercy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mika, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say we remember, and Mike Schmidt played 17 years in Philadelphia. We remember, and this guy, I mean, obviously he's probably the best Philly of all time, and we had our times where we booed him because he wasn't performing, and he had to come out that time, if you remember, Jason, with the wig when he was playing first base for a moment, like probably back in the mid 80s, and the fans, as soon as that happened, it just all turned around, with the boos, and we just like you said in the last podcast, he's trying too hard. He was trying too hard. So if it's deserved, like Lance Parrish back when you're talking about, Ben Simmons, was
that deserved, though, Lance Parrish? I don't think he was not trying.
Well,
a guy like Ricky Waters, who flat out says, "I'm not going to give my best for what," that's who you boo.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fans actually liked him. I mean,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, he was a good player.
But take a player like the wide receiver from TCU that went over Jefferson for the Eagles. Rager. He did nothing. He just he wasn't Jefferson. So he was more like poor performance, and they were booing him because of poor performance. He's a guy that never had a shot because of this situation. It's usually situational, or it's effort, or it's didn't connect with the fans for personal, something like that.
That's what I'm talking about with Ben Simmons. Like that's deserved because he wasn't giving effort towards the end of his tenure here, and he was playing like he was hurt all the time. And oh my God, he was cheered for the first 3 years he was here. He deserved to be cheered because he played well. But yeah, with this guy, I think it definitely helped. I mean, and he showed his gratitude, and hopefully that was what he needed, and it's obviously shown, over the last 4 or 5 games. He's definitely produced. He's stepping up. He hasn't made any errors. So hopefully that was the boost he needed. And we've said a million times in this podcast, this team is so much better if he's playing like Trey Turner. The lineup is so much different if he's the guy that we think he is. If this is going to continue, I think they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, they let him off yesterday. Obviously, Schwarber sat, and thought maybe it was going to be something they're going to try out, but Schwarber's back to leading off today, so I guess that was just because he sat. So,
one thing real quick. I mean, I think the player's personality has a lot to do with it too. Now, you, Jason, and Chris could speak a little more to this, but I mean, I've never heard one good story or nice story about Mike Schmidt while he was a player here with having an interaction off the field. Like, he was said to be a real prickly guy. Yeah. If not nasty, just didn't care, wasn't just aloof. Overly nice. He was
very aloof.
So, I mean, I think the personality goes toward it too. And Schmidt is the greatest third baseman of all time, probably got booed more than he should have been. But I think not having that natural relationship with the fans probably didn't help when it came to that.
Yeah, and Schmidt, he did the game on Sunday. He seemed a little ticked off that Turner was getting all that love. I was kind of like, where were these people when I played? It seemed like. But what about Ryan Howard? He was a guy that I felt like didn't, the fans kind of got on at times. Obviously, the high strikeouts, the high salary. But was that just for that reason? I mean, because he connected with fans. He was part of a World Series team,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're maturing, or I don't know what word I'm looking for, but growing, or
Well,
I don't know. I mean,
it
that's a
took
good point.
it took Hamels a little while to get back in the fans' good graces after what he said after '09. He just wanted the
What did
season
he
to be
say?
over. I just want the season to be over.
I
And
don't even remember that. And I
Yeah,
he
don't know
said that
why
in the
that
World
would be an
Series.
issue.
Well, maybe
I
he
would
shouldn't have
think
pitched like garbage. And
I do
they would
think
have won
that
another World
that
Series.
Phillies team suffered a little bit from like Utley and Rollins were loved, and everybody thought they should have won more championships than they won. And as they started to lose, in 10, and then fans started to get bitter with that team and could see the
Yeah.
writing on the wall, and they took it out on the Howards, guys that weren't Utley and Rollins, because Utley and Rollins had downfalls too with the fan as a player, performance wise, at the
Yeah.
end, but.
And Rollins made the comment about the fans in 2008 before they went to win the World Series, so that didn't put him in the good graces at that.
Yeah, he had a
time
big
either.
mouth.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think part of the Howard. I don't know if people fell in love with that MVP season. Like, he wasn't going to be a 300 hitter his whole career. He was going to hit 260, strike out a gazillion times, and give you 35 to 40 home runs at his best. And maybe people got spoiled by that early performance and thought, well, why can't this guy hit at least 275 or 285 every year, let alone 300?
Fans love average. They love batting average.
Yeah, well, all the smart fans do for sure. But I mean,
sometimes you're a victim of your own
oh my
success.
God.
It's
That's it.
Just made
I mean,
hard to
one
live
of-
up to some things.
Harper just
it's
made
not
one
going to
of
happen.
the
What's
worst
happened?
stars I've ever seen in my life. I mean,
I'm not
it's
watching while we're doing
it's
this, but
pretty
sometimes you're a victim of your own success, Chalky. And like sometimes, you have seasons like Howard had and you don't live up to that same expectation. It's almost like the fans expect that all the time. And it's you can't expect that all the time.
yeah.
I feel like
Brown's
Howard
hit the bag. It
hit
looks
the-
like,
it
so
hit the
maybe
base.
not quite
It
in his
hit the
face.
base.
Howard was the start of like those big contracts too, a little bit too. He got that
Yes.
mega deal, and fans use that against him. Now it's not.
Well, that was
What's the other part of
bad-
it?
It wasn't necessary at the time, and then he tore his Achilles, and that was it. Like, so
Yeah.
those two things on top of it. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's almost like that they were booing the
Amaro
management.
Yeah.
For giving him the deal, because I mean, you're going to boot a guy for getting a deal. He got the deal. He should've
yeah.
got it.
I mean, again, it's not our money. Like, I mean, they paid to keep him. But I mean, I think Meeker's got a good point with that, because, like, think about, one of the guys who talked about a couple times about the fans getting behind was Fultz, right? So if Fultz would have started off tearing the league up and then he got the funky thing with his shot, I think the reaction would have been a lot different. It was like, okay, he did whatever in summer league, but start the year was weird. Then he missed most of the season. Then he comes back, and like, he gets a triple double off the bench. They give him a standing ovation every time he shot a three. Like, the crowd would cheer him, and he would shoot three after the whistle, like in between plays. And if he made it, the crowd would give him a standing ovation. I was there. I saw it. So, we could have easily jumped on him and booed him for not living up to the hype of a first round pick, let alone the number one pick overall. But I mean, he got a lot more support than a lot of people have gotten here. But I think it's because he didn't play well to begin with. As soon as he got into the league.
Yeah, and Sixers fans we're starting to already get fed up with the direction and obviously what it is today. All right, let's move. Let's talk about the no hitter last night. We had some text going on. Do you keep him in? Don't you keep him in? Obviously, they kept him in. I think he had the most pitches he ever threw. He had the most pitches of anybody in the major leagues, I think, this year. But he got the no hitter, and it was exciting. I found myself like generally cheering, like with So, Jason, what were your thoughts? And going forward, I know your thoughts on Lorenzen. So,
Yeah, I texted you guys, and I legitimately, in the seventh inning, I was like, I think it might be better if he gives up a hit, because here's what I'm thinking about the guy. He's never been a starter before last year, right? So they're kind of stretching him out as a starter. He's already at his innings limit or close to it, and now he's in a game where after the seventh inning he had 100 pitches, right? So I'm like, this is not great for down the road. Now, obviously, it was a historic night.
the 6-man rotation helps, though, knowing that
It
barring injury, they're
does,
going
but
to use that rotation.
I remember, and this guy threw more pitches than that, but you guys remember Johan Santana, I'm sure.
Yep.
When he threw his no-hitter and was never ever to see him again. I think he threw 135 pitches.
Yeah,
if I
I kind of remember that.
correctly.
Yeah.
And he just was never the same. So it was great. It was really cool to watch. It was fun and exciting and all. I hope he could recover from it. Because he's, like I said, well, I don't know if I said it on this podcast, but I know I've said it through text. I think he's your number 2 starter now when you go into the playoffs. After Wheeler, I still don't buy into Walker 100%. I'm okay with him as your third starter.
I feel like you have to have Walker as your third, just because of.
I'm not okay with Nola. As I watch him give up a rope and he got caught, but did he drop that?
There was a drop, but I don't know if it was. Yeah, I think it was.
That was Wilson. I think he dropped that ball.
Yeah, the problem with these guys are though, like the Nolas and Walker, they can't make the transition. Well, I don't think to the bullpen, right? So
no,
what do you do with them now? They just
I
don't
think
play.
Nola becomes your number 4. In my opinion, I think Walker.
So he doesn't see the first series, generally, right?
Probably not. And then Suarez could pitch out of the pen.
Right.
Suarez,
So I think that's gonna, depending on Lorenzen and Suarez where they're at.
I think he helps your bullpen. But I think we're getting into, I'm starting another going off on a tangent here. But I mean, it was a cool moment.
Yeah, I will say though that one of the strengths of Topper is the EQ, the emotional intelligence of knowing like when to push that. And I felt like he knew that the team wanted that emotional, lift. They're starting to bond. They're starting to play better. Turner's so I felt like it was a good crescendo into like this momentum they got going. And I, of course, if he started to get in trouble or something, it's different. But I feel like he thought, let me keep going with them because, they need this. The fans need it.
That was tough. He did a good job with it. Yep.
So, and Lorenzen helped his cause by having an easy eighth, a quick eighth. He struggled in the beginning of the game, and then he started to lower the pitch.
Well, I made the comment to you guys. I was like, he better be throwing strikes because if you're nibbling around, now you're going to get that pitch count up, and you're not getting a no-hitter.
Well, the 2.5 foot ball strike in the 9th inning helps the cause. But Chalky, what do you think around the no-hitter?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said about Thompson. I mean, we criticize him often when it's deserved, but I mean, not just because he got the no-hitter was it the right call, but I mean, if you take him out, like you're robbing the guy of his career moment, and you could say, well, we got to care about the team, but that he could have easily turned the whole team against him by taking him out because they wanted it to happen. Look at that celebration afterwards, and the guys coming out of the dugout and all that. And I don't know if he knew that Lorenzen's wife and mother and all that were in attendance, but if he didn't know, I mean, that made for great television. And Castellanos' son was in like every other shot. With every family, it's weird.
Yeah,
how does he get to every? Like they almost sit close together because he's in every.
Well, what's his name?
He runs down to the.
I guess, but
right?
wasn't who's the guy? I'm drawing a blank on his name now. That just dropped the fly ball, like the 28-year-old rookie. His family was like in the outfield, and Castellanos' son was out there.
That's
at some
what
point.
I
said.
I do like them showing the families. We talked about this because they generally all have something in common.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. Well,
that's what $13 million a year will get you.
Yeah. So.
If any of us looked like Lorenzen in our normal lives, we would probably not have a wife the same. As,
Wilson is career
minor leaguer. Yeah.
And those guys make what, 40,000 a year?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah.
It must have a good personality.
Well, listen. I mean, he obviously last night was he made the right moves, and I think the fact that you could, if you really want to, skip a start to give him a little extra rest, or you do a bullpen game where maybe he throws 3 innings, like because they have 6 in the rotation, you have that flexibility. So I wasn't as concerned so much with the pitch count for last night. No, he wouldn't. He shouldn't have pitched 150 pitches, like if you had to go to that. But he's got less wear and tear than Santana did when Santana threw that no-hitter.
Yeah, it would be more if he got an injury from it. Did something that caused the strain or something, not necessarily just flat tire.
And he's got that weird. Was he like? It looked like he was spraying like chloroseptic in his mouth between innings or something.
Yeah,
like
what was that going on?
I have no idea. Like whatever he's got, he might get suspended for a couple weeks afterwards. I don't know.
He's supposed to have nice breath when he goes out to the mound. I don't.
Yeah,
Mika, you're a man for the moment. What
Yeah.
your thoughts? You're an emotional baseball fan.
Um,
You like the
Look,
story.
I think the biggest thing
Soap
that
operas.
the biggest thing is the fact that he didn't really have any stress pitch. He didn't have to stress out, in that outing because they're up 7-0. He doesn't have to, he's not throwing the ball. I was saying to you guys, he's not throwing the ball 96 miles an hour every pitch. He throws a lot of changeups. He throws a lot of, breaking balls. It's not really a big stress on his arm. So I felt like the guy felt strong. He told Thompson he felt strong. Thompson said last night that that was going to be his last hitter no matter what because he was getting up to, 125 by that time. And perhaps he would have taken him out.
If he walks that guy, there's no
If
way
he
they're
walks
taking
him,
out. They're not taking him out.
that's what he said.
I don't
but
believe he was coming out either.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
No.
But one thing before I forget, Mika, I wanted to build on one thing you said. Was there one great play that anybody made last night? I don't think so.
Bohm had a couple nice plays at third.
Play
they
against the
weren't
wall
great.
was okay. I mean, play
Which
against the
one?
wall. That Wilson made a play.
Yeah, but that was
against
a
the left
foul
field wall.
ball. So
That was
I mean,
foul
we're
ball.
recording
That
it
wasn't
now,
gonna be-
but
But it was a good. But it's an out, and that matters because
the same with Bohm's. Like,
otherwise
if he
the
didn't-
bat goes
if he
on.
didn't make the play, it's probably an error. I mean, they weren't like
Yeah.
borderline hits.
Yeah,
Castro
I mean,
made
but
a
my
nice play
point
in
is
the
he-
seventh. I think the end of seventh, but nothing.
My point
crazy.
is he just pitched so well. Like there's no really.
Rojas
well
had what 9 putouts. He had
Yeah, a lot of fly
33
balls. A lot of fly
33%
balls.
I mean, I think that the first out of the game was the long. It was 398 feet or whatever. I mean, if that goes anywhere but dead center, it's a home run.
Oh, I remember that.
it wa-
I
I-
probably don't.
It was
hardly
the
hit
seventh
ball.
inning when I realized it because he just wasn't pitching like no hitter stuff. He was just
I was just checking the score. I kept flipping the score. I had no idea until you guys started texting, and I turned it on for the last 2 innings. Like I really.
Well, it just goes to show you, like, you don't have to have strikeout stuff to pitch well, and we've seen
Well,
that
he
for
pitched
2
to
starts
contact.
with this guy.
Yeah.
And Walker kind of pitches to contact too. He doesn't strike a lot of guys out.
Yeah, the problem with that is
and-
you have to stay on the corners and move the ball
Yeah.
around. It's when you're not.
But if you're a strikeout pitcher and you're pitching a no hitter and you got 12 Ks, but you've made a lot of pitches and a lot of higher, I guess, higher stress pitches or higher leverage pitches. But he was smooth, his delivery's smooth, and the guy, like I said a couple podcasts ago, he's a fitness freak. So I just feel like you give the guy his moment. I don't think you have to worry about it with a day off and a 6-man rotation. He's not going to pitch for like 7 days, so he's got a lot of
Friday,
time to
more than that.
recovery.
Friday. He's pitching Friday, so it's 8 days.
8 days. So
he's got 17
that
innings
all
in 2 games
that-
with the Phillies,
yeah.
which is crazy.
that all went
Yeah.
into Thompson's decision to keep him in the game, and obviously it worked out and was a great moment, and probably.
And I think
Yeah.
to Chalky's point that the fans are just as starting to be just as much a part of the team, kind of as obviously the players more, and that could have definitely swayed. You take him out, I think the fans are going to be angry, the players are going to be angry.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
look,
There's no win situation for him.
It was last week, the week before. Meeker talked about Turner getting his moment. Well, he hit a game-winning home run. What, on Saturday or whatever it was, or
Saturday,
run
the
home
go
run.
ahead, yeah.
To go ahead.
Yeah. So there's been games. I mean, they've been on a roll. Obviously, they haven't won every one. They blew the game the second half of the doubleheader, but they rocked them early on Tuesday, and the fans are finally starting to get like.
Yeah, you
momentum,
could
I
see
think,
the
with
vibe.
the team, and
the
you
vibe
keep
is
building
different.
on it.
And they're
Yeah.
hitting, the vibe's different,
Yeah, I mean, everybody but Real Muto is really like hitting at some point or another, like in this lineup right now.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully he can come. But yeah, I mean, it's not often when a guy makes his major league debut and hits a home run. A guy has 2 home runs. One is his 200th of his career, and they're not interviewed after the game because somebody throws a no hitter. So it was definitely probably the funnest game of the year for sure.
Probably a crazy stat. I mean, there's after last night that the Phillies have had 5 starts where the starter went 8 innings. Lorenzen has 2 of the 5 now, and there is only 2 starts on the team.
For the season?
So,
For the season?
for the season. So they weren't getting like long starts out of their guys. So he's not going to go 8 innings every night, but if he's a solid 7 inning guy, like that's going to help your bullpen out a lot. Based on Wheeler and Nolo, sometimes you can barely get 6 if you're lucky.
That was also the first start for a pitcher in the home ballpark to throw a no hitter since like 1960. So it hasn't happened for 63 years.
And I think I sent you guys the stat they posted that Wilson was the first player to make his major league debut and hit a home run since Friday. Is the stat that they put that on the thing? It was like since Friday. I'm like, well, it's come on.
I hope that person got a bonus, whoever came up with that.
Yeah. Right.
So I was listening back to some shows, and the third of the season, whenever that was, we were all down. I think Chalky does the notes for the show, and that segment was called "Phillies Stink." I think we are all different now, right? We all believe they're probably the favorite and should get the first wild card, right? Don't think anybody here thinks differently.
Yeah.
Well, we got a series coming up here against the Giants, and I think that's important. To
Got
get
two,
the
I
first
think,
wild
right?
card.
Don't they have 6 against them? 6 or 7, I think.
Well, I don't know when the next one is. I know that they're playing them
There's one at the end of the
midweek
month.
next week.
Yeah, they got one.
next
They got one coming up, and then I think they go to San Francisco for a couple games too.
Oh, okay.
And look, I think they're a better team than the Giants. I don't think the Giants. I don't know how they're winning, to be honest with you. I mean, I got to give Kapler some credit because I don't know how they're winning, and but that's where you can put a little distance between them and the Giants, yourself and the Giants, because that's the team I think that's the only team you have to worry about for the first wild card at this point.
Yeah, I struggle, and we're going to go through some predictions. I struggled filling out my wild card predictions for the NL. So, yeah, quickly we did a draft, on that third show. I was just going to run through the teams and see who do we think has the best team. So Jason had the Dodgers, the Rangers, Arizona, and Baltimore. I had Tampa, San Diego, Minnesota, and the Angels. Meeker had Atlanta, Yankees, Toronto, and the Mets. Chalky had Houston, St. Louis, Seattle, and Philly. I mean, I would say Jason has the overwhelming edge on that, right?
Yeah, Arizona turned into a pig, but all three of them, I think, legitimate. All three other teams.
And then on the same show, we gave out some value picks, and Jason's were Arizona, Texas, Baltimore, and the Yankees. Meeker, Texas, Arizona, and Toronto. So you said they were in the wrong league, but they're a good team, and now they're in a wild card. So it was actually good. Chalky, Cleveland, and St. Louis. So not sure about
Cleveland's only 3.5 back. They still have a chance.
Didn't they sell their players at the trade deadline?
Well, I mean, Minnesota's not a world beater by any means, and I think their best pitcher isn't Bieber out for the year now. I think so.
And
they're going to struggle
for World Series. Almost everybody had the Braves kind of lead in, and we're going to talk about the World Series, but see if anybody has made changes. So let's go through it. We're going to go through divisions quickly, give out who you think's going to win the division, who's going to be the wild card, and ultimately what's your World Series matchup. I guess we'll go division by division. So we'll start AL. AL East. Jason?
Yeah, I'm going with the Orioles. I know
Baltimore?
they're leading right now, but I think they're legit.
Yeah, so I went with Baltimore too. One of the things that swayed me was Tampa actually has like the 5th or 6th toughest schedule, and Baltimore has like the 3rd or 4th easiest schedule.
Yeah, and they got a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And Tampa has some big injuries. So I also
injuries.
I also went Baltimore. Chalky?
Yeah, I'm a believer in Baltimore right now. So I thought they would be an 80+ win team, but I think they're a legit contender at this point.
How about you, Meeker? Round us out.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with it and say Baltimore as well. Tampa, the injuries that they have are major, in their starting rotation right now. They just lost their best pitcher, and he's done for the year, McClanahan. So now that that's happened, I feel like I'm not going to say they're going to run away with it, but they should hold on. They're 2.5 games up right now, so.
Yeah, the only thing with Tampa is they'll like bring somebody up or find somebody you never heard of. That's going to be good. But,
they do, but it's tough. It's tough to replace your number one starter.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
tough.
So we're unanimous with Baltimore. So keep an eye on that. AL Central, probably unanimous. Minnesota for me. Meeker.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, Cleveland didn't throw in the towel at the trade deadline. I mean, they traded one of their better pitchers, but Minnesota's up 3.5 games right now. That division's trash, so I'll stick with Minnesota. They'll probably hold on.
Chalky.
I'll stick with Cleveland. Why not?
Minnesota. Jason.
Yeah, Minnesota.
All right, and then the West. I mean, I got Texas. Chalky, I think Houston was one of your big plays. Are you sticking with them?
I'll stick with them, but Texas has had injuries with their bats and in pitching, and obviously they traded for Scherzer, but they've got staying power that I was not expecting. But I'll say Houston gets them in the end.
How about you, Jason?
Yeah, I'm actually going to say Houston, believe it or not. I think Houston's going to take the division. I don't, I'll have another answer for you later on how I think Texas will do, but I think Houston's going to win the division.
And Meeker, finish off the AL.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Houston too. I think it'll be a tight race, maybe coming down to the last week of the season. But Texas, they're 8-2 in the last 10 games. They're like you said, they have staying power. They're not going anywhere. They're gonna make the playoffs for sure.
Houston isn't going anywhere either. Houston,
Houston.
Exactly.
Still only
Yeah.
2 back. So.
Jason, what's your 3 wild card in the AL?
Rangers will be the first. I do think the Rays are going to get in, even though they got a lot of injuries. But I think they're going to get in. And the Blue Jays. I think that'll be my third team.
Yeah, I'll go next since I'm pretty much the same, except flip-flop, Houston and Texas, because I had Texas winning. I got the Rays and I got the Blue Jays. Chalky.
I'm Rays, Rangers, and Mariners.
Okay, you want Mariners. So I'll let Mika go first. Mika, your wild cards.
Yeah, same 3 as you guys. Tampa, Toronto, and Houston. I know Seattle's 9-1 in their last 10. They won 7
I was going to
straight,
say, I
but-
was going to let Chalky and I guess I'll let you two team up on them. What Seattle versus Toronto? What's the argument? Why Toronto? Why Seattle? Jason?
For me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Seattle is an odd team. They kind of sold, and it seems like that they're not wholeheartedly into this. But even though they're still winning, I just think Toronto's overall got the better roster, the better team, and I think they're gonna prevail and get that other spot.
Mika, anything to add?
No, roster-wise, Toronto's staff is better. Their lineup's better. I know the one thing, though, that you have to watch is they're playing in a tougher division. They play tougher teams for the rest of the year versus Seattle.
Yeah,
being
Seattle
in the
has
West.
an easier schedule as the season goes
Yep.
on. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
the thing you gotta
Toronto,
watch.
to me, their pitching, you look at some of the metrics, their pitching is similar, but Toronto's lineup is so much better than Seattle's lineup. Chalky, you want to defend it?
I mean, I drafted Seattle, so I'd like to get 3 of my 4 into the playoffs. And if St. Louis pulls it out, I'll be 4 for 4.
That's kind of what I suspected. All right, let's move to the
Well, they pulled you
NL.
closer, at least, Chalky. Winning 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Let's move to the NL. NL East, Phillies have any shot? Anybody?
No.
Braves. So NL Central. Meeker, you go first.
It's a tough one. The Cubs have been playing some really good baseball, and I'm not a big believer in them, and I'm not a big believer in the Reds either. So I know they're in first, and it's kind of the chalky pick, but I'm going to pick the Brewers to hold on to that division. Again, coming down to the wire with the Cubs, though. I think the Reds will start falling. I think that's the team that I see falling out of the race.
Jason?
Yeah, I actually think there's value on Milwaukee, even though they are leading right now. I wholeheartedly think they're winning that division. They have the better staff. The Cubs they're going to fall short, and the Reds are just starting to turn
Beat the
back
Reds.
into the Reds.
Yeah, how about you, Chalky?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel really strongly about Milwaukee, but I think if almost by default they're going to be the team that holds on. Stroman is supposed to become. If Stroman was 100% healthy, I would give the Cubs a better shot because you got a real good top 2 of the rotation there. But I think they'll peter out, and it'll be Milwaukee in the end.
And I actually went with the Cubs, and I'm gonna. This is why I wish Jimmy D was on. I'm gonna throw a WABA stat, weighted on base percentage, one of the sabermetrics, and they're actually top 6 in that stat, which is kind of an efficiency stat for offense. So I ultimately went with the Cubs. And then the West, probably unanimous here. Jason? Dodgers.
Agree.
All right, let's go wild card. Chalky, you first.
So, I mean, Phillies, obviously, I think not being the first wild card would be a disappointment. Just getting in is not good enough if you're not the first seed in the wild card. I think that's a disappointment the way they've been playing, at least. San Francisco probably hangs around and gets that second one. And then you're looking at the Red. I'll probably go Miami because if they're pitching, they have pitching. They have better pitching than the Cubs or the Reds at this point. And Arizona's just kind of a mess, and Padres haven't gotten rolling. So I'm gonna say the Marlins pitching is enough to keep them in that final spot. So I guess that's the three that are in there now. So no change in the order.
Meeker.
Yeah, Phillies number 1 wild card. Giants will hold on to 2. And yeah, I waver with this one, but I'm going to say that the Cubs make it interesting and get in the playoffs and beat out Miami and Cincinnati, Arizona. They're playing good ball. Their run differential is plus 66. It's like third in the National League right now. I know they scored 20. What, they scored 20 runs one game, and I'm sure that made a big difference. But offensively, they're playing really well. And if Stroman does come back, that's a big plus. So I'm going to take the Cubs as the third wild card.
Like I said, their WABA stat is top 6. Jason, wild card.
Phillies, Cubs, Giants.
In that order?
I'm
So
Phillies.
Cubs go over the Giants, number 2? All right.
And I was Phillies. I think the Padres pedigree comes alive, and I was Milwaukee. I'm really down on the NL wild card. I think there's a lot of bad teams. I cherry pick stats because that's what we do. And like bullpens, Arizona, San Fran, they're amongst the worst bullpens in baseball. And that's the stuff as the season winds down. Bullpens play a huge part, and Padres were one of the best, and obviously Dodgers, Houston, etc. So, yeah, ultimately I went with San Diego and Milwaukee. All right, let's go through. We're just gonna give AL winner, NL winner, and then a World Series. So, Jason, finish us off. Who in the AL, who in the NL, and who's taking the World Series?
I'll give you the ALCS. I think it's Orioles and Rangers. Even though I don't think the Rangers are going to win the division, I think they're going to get to the ALCS. I believe in the Orioles this year. And I think the Orioles are going to the World Series.
And Chalky, AL?
Houston.
Sticking with Houston. And Meeker.
So I'm going to throw a little surprise in here. I'm going to say the ALCS ends up being Toronto and Houston. And
you drafted Toronto?
And I'm going to I'm going to stick with Toronto because they were my preseason pick.
And that was your value play on the third.
To go to the AL, to go to the World Series in the AL. So I'm going to stick with it. Probably won't happen, but I'll stick with it.
So do you think Toronto can pull it off if Manoah doesn't get right consistently?
They have pretty good pitching. Otherwise, I don't think it really matters whether he gets right.
Okay.
Because they pretty much written him off for the rest of the year, I would think anyway. It's not really hurt them that much.
All right, and I'm gonna stick with. I'm big on Texas. I'm gonna go with Texas in the World Series. I did not draft them. I wish I did, but I do like them, so I'm gonna go with Texas. Let's go to the NL. We'll start with Chalky. St. Louis.
Phillies.
Was that a homer pick or is that did you use that?
I mean, look, the Braves. The Braves are the best team. Who wants to pick the Braves and have fun? Yes, they're the most likely winner. I'm not a big on the Dodgers, and the Phillies are a solid third choice on the betting lines right now. I mean, and they're not. I think record-wise, I guess they would be third best, but they're going to be a wild card. If the team gets rolling like they are now, like the bats are coming alive, they can beat the Braves. And at 7.5 to 1, I'll take the Phillies.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with the Phillies. How about you, Meeker? I know.
So I have a question before I answer this, but if the Phillies get the first wild card and win, and Milwaukee loses, does that mean the Phillies have to play the Dodgers and not the Braves because they seed it that way in the playoffs?
I believe that's correct.
All right, so
there's no reseeding?
No, there would be a reseeding because if Milwaukee would be the 3 seed, right?
The Braves
so if they
would
lose,
play the worst team left in the
right,
yeah.
right, because they're going to have the best record, right? Okay. So given that situation, I think the Phils win their first round, and I think, of course, the Braves would have to play the worst team, which would be the Cubs beating the Brewers. That's what I think will happen. And that would mean the Braves play the Phillies in the NLCS because I think the Phillies can beat the Dodgers. But then, unfortunately, I think the Braves beat the Phillies, and my World Series is Atlanta and Toronto. That's not chalk. Toronto's not chalk.
Braves aren't chalk.
The Braves are, yeah.
Okay.
Jason?
I'm going to give you a stat on the Braves. The Braves, since the All-Star break, have the second worst starting pitcher ERA in baseball. The Braves are starting to show cracks. All right? And I don't know if it's because they're getting bored because they're so far ahead of anybody in the division, or
Yeah, but we know in baseball, it's you don't just turn it around when the playoffs start.
agree.
We've seen so many of the hotter teams take
I
it.
agree. I do not think the Braves are going to the World Series. I think the Phillies are going to get the NLCS. I think they're going to play the Dodgers. I do think the Dodgers are going to beat them.
Yeah, so I also had the Dodgers winning the NL. So Texas and the Dodgers for me. Meeker was Toronto, Atlanta. Jason was
Dodgers and Baltimore.
Dodgers, Baltimore, and Chalky's was all messed up. What was the Phillies and
Houston Phillies rematch?
Oh, rematch. All right,
sad that-
Chalky. Who wins the rematch?
Houston.
Phillies. Oh, wow.
Again? Oh, come
Crushing all Philadelphia fans. Jason?
Kill me.
This is a tough one. I think Baltimore's going to fall.
Are they ready to win a World Series?
Yeah, I want to pick them so badly, but I think I'll go with the Dodgers.
Meeker, who in your battle?
And you're talking about their pitcher's ERA. You're talking about just the starter's ERA, Jason? Or is it their whole staff? Did he blip out on us there?
No, I think he had a 10 to something.
Anyway, I kind of believe that that's the situation with the Braves, that they are maybe a little bored. But some of these pitchers that they have are on the younger side, like your Bryce Elders and the Striders of the world. And I don't know if it's just fatigue, or if that's fatigue, then it's a big concern. If it's because they're just bored, then I don't really know if I'm concerned about it. So I got the Braves winning the World Series in 6 over Toronto.
So you have the Braves crushing Philly fans because we hate the Braves. Chalky has the Phillies losing in the World Series, crushing Philly. Is this a Philadelphia podcast or come on? Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and take Texas to win it all this year. So I got Texas beating the Dodgers. Although I could see that going either way. Dodgers, I think are a good team.
Now we were skewering the Phillies for losing 3 games against Texas at the start of the year, right? If they end up being the champions, doesn't quite look so good.
Yeah,
can't
just
jump to conclusions.
game 1, 2, and 3 of a 162 game season. I don't know if you really go back and look at
And they got trailed.
and look
No,
at it.
but I'm saying, some people thought the season was over because you lost 3 in a row to Texas.
And that and $2.25 gets you probably a can of soda at this point. So,
Jason, while you were gone, you threw out that stat about the Braves ERA since the All-Star break.
Starter
Just the
pitcher
starters?
ERA.
Yeah,
Yes.
got it. And
And they're slightly ahead of the Pirates, so they are right there with being the worst starting pitching staff since the All-Star break.
because I have seen a couple of starts by some of their younger pitchers when they've gotten, really beat to death. Like they've given up like 6, 7 earned runs in 3 innings. So
Even Strider. How about Strider? Strider
So
got
I mean-
crushed the last game.
yeah, I know. I don't know if it's fatigue. I know we were talking about that while you were away. Do you attribute that to fatigue with the younger pitchers, or is it they're bored?
Second time. Strider's pitching a lot, so it might be fatigue for him. The other guys, it's second time the other teams are seeing them and stuff like that. So, they're showing cracks. They're not as invincible as they looked, a month or 2 ago.
Would you take the Phillies staff over the Braves staff?
Would I take the Phillies staff over the Braves staff? Strider, Fried, Morton. Who am I forgetting?
Elder.
Yeah, I'm not huge on Elder.
They got like 3 guys in the DL that could come back and be like the number 3 on team in the league too.
It's close. If Nola pitches Nola's actually pitching well tonight. If he improves, I would take the Phillies.
But definitely
Yeah.
take the Braves lineup over the Phillies.
Well, yeah, the Braves lineups.
There's no other team you would take over the Braves lineup.
Yeah.
That's why it's tough to pick against them.
All right. I think that wraps up the first half of our show. Unless anybody has anything else to add, we'll move to Saratoga and the 4-Star Dave.
What's your 4-Star Dave pick, Meeker? The 2?
Probably no shot.
Full screen. He's gonna be a bomb.
Tom, what's that? So in your face that it
I wouldn't be as surprised if I woke up with my face sewed to the carpet. I believe, just like Chalky's pick last week there. All right, Meeker, we'll catch you next week. All right, let's go to Saratoga, and it starts at 5:06 Eastern Standard Time. It's been a funky meet, bad weather, bad turf course, so the 4-Star Dave is a turf race, so it is raining now. It rained early. It's supposed to rain Saturday. Who knows what's going to happen? But again, we handicap these as fast as, on the turf, etc., and make adjustments. So let's kick it off, and I'll go to Jason. We are 6.5, the Saratoga Special for 2-year-old colts or males, whatever you want to call them. Where are you at, Jason? Who's your top pick?
Yeah, I'm going to try and beat the 6 rhyme schemes. You guys know with the contest, I'm a sucker for these Lucas horses. So this Lucas 2-year-old, the 2 Market Street, he's the only horse in the field who's faced winners, and that was in a stakes race. He's also the only horse that's already run at Saratoga. Stumbled out of the gate in the last race, so didn't really run the race that he wanted. I'm going to use him. I hope I get 10-1 on him. I think the experience gives him an edge here.
The jockey changed, from Gaffalione to Torres.
Hey, listen, that Torres, I believe won on this horse before.
No, he won on
he
Lucas,
won on another Lucas horse.
Made it special weight, not against the
But hey, listen, I mean, he gets him out of the gate and all. So, like I said, I'll take 10-1 on him.
Chalky?
Yeah, I'm trying to beat the favorite as well. This is kind of weird because there's more horses that ran at Ellis, which is the pseudo Churchill meet than even at Saratoga or Belmont. But I am going to go on top with the 5 edified Steve Asmussen horse. Broke its mane on the first chance down at Ellis, and Asmussen has had a lot of success in different types of races, but he's been decent with 2-year-olds over the years. So I'll put the 5 on top in this one.
I am not going to try to beat the 6. I think he wins this race going away. He ran a ridiculous number at Ellis. We know the souped-up track there. So, yes, I think that number is probably higher than it should be. But even if he drops down, I think his buyer drops. I think his number is still crushed this field. The interesting is the horse Jason was talking about, the Lucas horse, Sees the Gray, who won, ran 7th in that race and came back and won a maiden special weight. And improved, obviously, a huge amount. The 6th place horse in that race won and improved huge. And the 3rd place horse in that race also won. Now, he dropped 3 points on his buyer. But again, I think the number was a little bit skewed. So I expect a little bit of a drop on that. But I don't see this horse losing. And I think the other speed is Torres and the 4, where Irad doesn't like to push him, to the lead. And I don't trust Torres against the big boys. So I think he gets a lead and he just keeps going. Do we have anybody else, Jason? You went with a price, so do you have other horses you'll be using?
Yeah, I'm going to throw in that 4, the Pletcher horse, the Hall. Supposedly been training well. He's got talent. He obviously has pedigree. So I'm just trying to beat that 6. I don't know. For some reason, he just ran a humongous race and I don't know if he's going to bounce or whatever, but I'll go with the 4s.
Yeah, Norm's been bringing winners over. He's 50%, 3 for 6 so far. So he's
done well.
Chalky, did you have anybody else with your 5?
Yeah, the 4 would be my other horse to use here. I mean, I do agree that the 6 doesn't have to run back to that last race to win. He can run a little bit worse, and if nobody else improves, he still wins, possibly by a lot. But I'm gonna bet that one of these, either the Pletcher or the Asmussen, moves up enough that gets a hold of him in this one.
Yeah, and my other horse I would, I'm deciding if I would even play on a backup, would be the 5. So the second place horse improved 15 points in that race. The fourth place horse improved 4, and the second to last horse won at the spot. Won at the spot, and that was also a Lucas horse, which is strange. So I do see improvement on that horse. Hall, every horse that ran back in that race, his race has been terrible, and they all regressed. So I just don't think he beat anybody. So I'm going to go with the 6, and maybe a little backup with the 5. All right, so this is the big race, the 4-star Dave, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy D.
I want to apologize to the Broad Street Hustle guys that I didn't do my homework this week, but I'm in Saratoga. In Saratoga, things happen. It's so many horses, so little time. Well, maybe that was women, but that's okay. I got it right or wrong, whatever. But I do have a little special message from my boys and the legion of fans that we have out there. It's a little note called The Legend of Casa Creed. You've heard the Broad Street Hustle guys and the picks that they need. Now it's time to hear about the only horse to bet to really succeed. He starts running in the rear and he lets the others proceed. Then he revs his old engine and starts picking up speed. One by one, passing rivals, moving faster indeed. 100 yards from the wire, he captures the lead. Now act with some caution. Creed doesn't win every race, but he tries like a racehorse, puts money in your pocket and a smile on your face. Casa Creed loves the Spa Oval. He's a horse for a course. Good at other places, but at the Spa, he's a dominant force. He won once here this season, and for me, that was a treat. Creed's the only racehorse in Saratoga even Irad can't beat. Creed's happy up here. He romps in his pen, winning with glee. I think Creed loves Saratoga even more than Jimmy D. Creed wins the 4-star. No need to fret. Get your phone or your teller, but sure as hell make the bet. If you're stuck money on Saturday and you need to get out, Casa Creed is the best bet, and of that, there's no doubt. My apologies to Robert Frost. Thank you, guys. Love you as always, and hope to catch up with you soon.
All right, so this was tough. I want to hear your opinions first before I go. That's what I get to do as the host. So, Chalky, the 4-star Dave, a mile. Where are you at?
I think, as you mentioned on a previous podcast, we do hold grudges here, and I still have a grudge over how Casa Creed won that last race. So I'm going back to the 4 Annapolis. If the race is run the way it should be on paper, the way we think probably that it should have been run last time, he wins. Annapolis.
And I know where Jason's going. Jason?
Yeah, sorry, Jimmy D. I'm going to try to beat Casa Creed again. And same thing. I'm hoping, Irad is Irad, right? Probably the best. If he's not the best, he's one of the top 3 for sure jockeys out there. I hope he learned his lesson and will not get trapped behind Casa Creed again in this race. And if he gets the first jump on Annapolis, I do think at a mile he's going to win this race. So I'm the same as Chalky. I'm going to go with the 4 Annapolis.
Yeah, I mean, in full disclosure, I'm going to play both these horses equally. I don't think I could separate them. And I was convinced I was going to play Annapolis out of that last race for exactly what Jay said. I mean, the horse got the wrong ride. And you would think the horse that has first jump, because Casa did get the first jump on Annapolis, and he couldn't run him down, and should be reversed today where Annapolis gets the first jump. But I'm a sucker for the stories, and this is the 4-star Dave. We said it's the horse that wins at Saratoga. Casa Creed has won 3 times across, I think, 3 different years at Saratoga. So I'm gonna give Jimmy D his props, and I'm gonna put Casa Creed on top with obviously equal play to Annapolis. Chalky, were you going to play Casa or anybody else?
Probably not, and if I was going to go for a second choice, I'd probably mess around with Emmanuel, see if he keeps improving. Creed would not be on my ticket, which means he'll win. But,
How about you, Jason? Were you?
I agree with Chalky. My second pick would be Emmanuel as well.
All right.
Just trying to beat Casa Creed. Don't hate me, Jim.
All right, let's move to race 10. It's a mile. It's a starter allowance for $50K. Jason, where you at?
I hate doing this because you guys know how I've preached speed this whole meet, but I'm actually going to take a horse that's going to be off the pace here because I do see a lot of speed in this race. So I'm going to use the 10 Ice Road with Irad. I think he's going to be able to close on these speed horses, and he'll be my top choice. 10.
How about you, Chalky?
My top choice is going to be the 9 Memphis. I don't think you're getting the 8-1 on the morning line, but Linda Rice picked up the horse, makes a huge jump on whatever speed figure you want to look at. Wins at the same distance at Saratoga, which is a different configuration sort of than most tracks. From the 7 hole, this is the 9, so one not off the rail, which tends to favor in these mile races. But yeah, Memphis the 9.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with the 6 here, the Dugan horse, Chichabello. So Dugan, he always has a pretty good Saratoga meet. He doesn't run tons of horses, but he brings the ones that could win. The horse ran his best race of his life in a state bred allowance. It's interesting. He found this race. Did they write the race for Dugan to win? He started his career at 40K, so he found a starter allowance that he's eligible for after running in a state bred allowance. So interesting. I don't know if I love the jockey change to McCarthy, who's not having a good meet, but I think he should sit right off all that inside speed, and I think he has the best late foot. So I'm the 6 Chichabello, but no, by no means am I singling. Jason, where else were you?
I actually like that horse too as my second pick, the 6. Just like I said, there's times where speed just goes to the lead and wins. Who knows what these jockeys do? If that's the case in this race, I'm going to use him as my speed horse that I think could win.
And how about you, Chalky? Were you going anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm spreading a little bit in this race if you're talking about a multi. So I also would use the 3 order of magnitude, Diodoro. That's going to be speed coming out of the 3 hole there, 1 at a mile on this track. The 5, Mystical Curlin, Rodriguez, and the 6, like you guys. And I think McCarthy was ultimately the reason why I didn't put the 6 on top, but would be my second choice overall in the race.
Yeah, and I would probably go more towards and to just look for speed. Maybe we say it's going to be speed, but who knows? So the 2 and the 3. So Santana and Diodoro on the 3, and Rosario and Mott on the 2. The 2 is technically dropping, but it is out of Indiana, so probably not. And the 3 ran a huge number and moving up in class. He protects the horse off the claim. Diodoro has not been good at Saratoga, but he usually gets some. So that's where I'm going. All right, race 11 is a mile and a 16th on the inner turf. This is definitely one that could be taken off if, the last race of the day, if there is. So keep that in mind. But we will handicap for turf. And Chalky, where were you at?
So this overall would be another spread race for me, but I'm going to make my top pick the 9 from Kelly Breen and Irad. Obviously, we're handicapping it for turf, but could also possibly win this on the dirt. But I just think it could be lone speed or maybe challenged by the 6, possibly. I don't know. I think Irad can. I'm going to pick it because Irad gets out there with an easier lead and maybe goes wire to wire.
Jason?
I don't see much speed at all in this race, and it's state breds going long on the turf. Usually get a price. I really hope this stays on because I would love to use this horse in our contest, use this race because I think you're getting a price here. I'm gonna try the 5 Lady Jasmine. I just hope Ray Lou is gonna get aggressive on the horse, get out there, get the lead. I don't trust Irad on speed horses. I mean, sometimes he does take one to the lead and keeps going, but I don't know. He doesn't push a lot. So I'm hoping Ray Lou gets aggressive with this horse and keeps on going, and I'll use the 5 as my top pick.
Yeah, and I'm the same as Chalky. I saw no speed in this race, and I think Irad will put this horse on the lead. That's his best style. Plus, he's outside, so you just want to try to get him over. So speed is the best way to do that. Coming off a maiden win, I got Irad in that race. The 9. All right. Any Chalky? Anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a multi, I'm looking at maybe using 6 here. I'd also have the 1 spinning colors, the 2 Waterville, the 4 Stella Mars, the 6 Solib, and the 10 Ice Road, along with the 9.
How about you, Jason?
I mean, I could, if I played a multi, there's a chance I'd do an all in this race. I don't really have a second choice. I mean, all the horses you guys mentioned could potentially win this race.
Yeah, I think the 1 would be my second choice, but I can also see going super deep here. So I'll stick with the 9, a little backup with the 1, and probably press, more horses. Losing my voice here. All right, that concludes. Do you guys have tickets?
I personally didn't put one together. I there's a chance it's just a chalk. I mean, the Fourstardave could just be a chalky race. So,
how about you, Chalky?
And then that horse could easily win the Saratoga Special, the Cassie horse. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'll just give out, the picks I mentioned. So it'd be 4-5 with the 4, with the 3-5, 6-9, with the 1-2-4, 6-9, 10, and that would be $24.50.
All right, and I also didn't put a ticket together, so I'm going to end and get some water because I'm dying here. Episode 67, Broad Street Hustle. Next week, we got football, Eagles to talk about. They play Saturday, so should be fun. Have a great night.